people, Deluded, I'm back again. I'm out and about on my lunch break. You thought the rain could stop me from making vids. The rain can't stop me, dog. But we're back. Surprisingly, it's fairly quiet by my usual standards being outdoors. Normally when I sit in this spot, people are building, school kids are walking around, and obviously the hustle and bustle of London, everybody's grinding, everyone's, you know, making money to feed their kids and put money and put food on their table and them things, and just dealing with business. But it's quite quiet, so maybe that's the advantage of the rain, to be fair with you. Yeah, in relation to Arsenal, been browsing the internet when I can, seeing some talking points, if nothing more, just a good conversation with you guys. So let's kick off. First and foremost, ESPN have claimed, well, ESPN are talking about Marcelino really and truly, and there are a lot of conflicting reports in relation to Arsenal's manager. I mean, Arsenal's management position. I mean, even if you look at David Ornstein, he has said himself that some sources are saying Mikel Arteta is the front runner for the position. But in that same sentence, he's saying some people think the Arsenal position is anything but a foregone conclusion. They're still, you know, deliberating and whatnot. One consistency we are seeing is that the club allegedly want to make a quick resolution in regards to who is going to be our new manager, whoever that is. We keep hearing they want it to be quickly, and I do think to a degree they want to. Listen, I would like a manager to come in, if it's not going to be Ljungberg long term, someone that we can get behind and see their vision. But more so than me wanting a quick turnaround in relation to management people, it needs to be the right one. It's easy for me as a fan to say bring in better players, centre half, centre mid, and a manager, and not be able to suggest things. But this is why they're in them positions and we're in our positions, beyond the obvious people. Like I said, first and foremost, when you look at these managers, don't just look at their successes, look at what their success tells you. Was there any elements of failures in their success? How did they what's the right word? How did they respond to adversity when they were, you know, when you're in a bit of a rut as a manager? How did they get out of it? What's their playing? How do they manage players? How do they change formations? Because obviously you're going to go through bad periods as a team. If we was playing better, Aubameyang and Lacazette, for example, could play together, as unbalanced as you can claim it is. Right now we're in poor form and it's unbalanced, so we needed to go with two wingers and things. Can he do things like that? Obviously his values. Obviously look at his failures. What can his failures tell you? Not because a failure doesn't also necessarily have to be a negative people. What did he potentially learn from his failures in previous management? Obviously, and then on top of that, once you've done your due diligence, does his core values as a manager and his philosophy and things tie in with what Arsenal want to do or what we want to get back to? And if it doesn't, is he willing to bend towards that? That's what I would like, man. And whether that's an established name, the many names we've been linked with, or someone from, I don't know, wherever on the 4 or 5 corners, or how many corners this earth has, as long as it's the right man and it's that, I'm cool. For me, I just want someone that's clear in their principles so I can get behind people. Ljungberg, we're getting behind him. He's an former Arsenal player and whatnot. Long term, it remains to be seen. Emery is a good coach, but at the end of the day, he struggled to really put any real blueprint on Arsenal, and it was evident. So I want to really see someone with a clear way of what they want to do, rightly or wrongly, so I can critique them on such people. But ESPN are claiming Marcelino has held talks with Arsenal and is keen on becoming the next manager. The former Valencia and Villarreal coach has been in London this week for face-to-face talks with the club before returning to Spain on Tuesday, which is today. So again, we don't know the level of interest. It could just be gauging the likelihood of how much he wants the job between his advisors and Arsenal. He could just be on a short list, or he could be the next manager, because we have heard we haven't got the money to pay compensation packages for Brendan Rodgers, and you've heard Pochettino would have to give leave even though he's not their manager, something along them lines. And because of the quick turnaround, we've also heard we want someone who's relatively available and ready available, in which Marcelino is that. He's left his position at Valencia, he is available. And whatnot, and I can't imagine his fee would be the biggest of fees in comparison to what the release clause for Rodgers would have to be in terms of his management, what he'd get in terms of his yearly wages. So because of that, it won't cost that much because of his availability and probably similar to Emery, his experience as a manager versus Arteta and things like that. The club might lean towards that. I'm not saying Arteta is going to be a success, people, because if Arteta came instead of Emery and what Emery did, or what Emery went through as a team in these 18 months, Arteta did, people would sit here, myself probably included, and say, yo, we could have got experience, we bottled the decision. But what I don't want to happen, and the flip side of that is, if they genuinely wanted to appoint Arteta in the summer, then you probably should do it now. The same way we went for the safe option in Emery and it kind of came back to bite us. Could that be Marcelino? I'm not saying that's a fact. I'm just giving you all my thoughts, people. Moving on, it says sources have told ESPN that Marcelino has watched Arsenal closely this season, believing the squad to be strong in attack while unbalanced as a whole. Clearly, people were unbalanced. We're unbalanced in central midfield. Defence, I don't need to speak about defence. We know we need better personnel. We know our approach to defending is poor, but at the end of the day, the defence are not alone. The midfield, and actually as great as our attacking front three, front two strikers, whoever you want to call them are, we're terrible as a team. If you look at it, Leno, as crazy as it sounds, he's our first attacker. He's our last defender. So before the teams are able to breach the two banks of four with our attacking options in our midfield, and then it's on our defence to make these mistakes, why is that happening? Our whole approach, we're imbalanced as a team, we make bad habits, and we have poor personnel in the key positions. We are very unbalanced, which makes it a poor cocktail. So Marcelino, if true, that's not necessarily wrong. Sources have also told ESPN that Marcelino is not actually optimistic about being offered the job, believing being Spanish may be a disadvantage as Arsenal look to replace his compatriot Emery. Now, I don't think Spanish is relevant, because if Pep Guardiola was available tomorrow and he was going to come Arsenal, I don't think we care what nationality is. Nationality is irrelevant, people. I don't care if the guy's from Pakistan or from England or from Spain or Jamaica or whoever in this world. If the man, woman, whoever is credible for the job, they get the job. So his nationality really has no relevance. Obviously, I would say I get where he's coming from. It's a poorly constructed sentence, but I kind of get where they're coming from. You look at Emery, you look at Marcelino, they're complete different, but they're similar ages, been at similar clubs, done similar things. Well, for me, Emery has a far better CV, but I can see why they're kind of similar profiles, so I can see why that might be the thing, people. But at the end of the day, the credible man will get the role. Moving on from that, though, apparently we've been linked with Paulo Sousa. I believe he's currently the Bordeaux manager. Bordeaux, I watched Bordeaux at the weekend. They bottled a 1-goal lead and lost to Marseille under Villas-Boas, who's having a decent season with them people. They've got Yachi Nadli. Obviously, Bordeaux have him and Koscielny, so they're a bit of relevance. He's obviously best remembered for his failed times, I believe, at Swansea, potentially QPR as well. Been assistant manager with Portugal's national team. I must admit, he's not inspiring at all, and I don't really want him as a manager, people. But at the end of the day, apparently his current employers, to get him out of that, it's a 2 million release clause. So again, that's more or less pennies when you compare it to Rodgers. I don't think he's the man for the job, but if the club do, then you can see where they're going. Now, it is Italian sources reporting such, so I don't know how valid these claims are, people. Apologies for spitting there. I don't know how valid these claims are, people, so potentially to be taken with a slight pinch of salt, but I mean, that's what I've come across online, people, really and truly. Moving away from that, people, Ljungberg's had something to say on Martinelli. He's more or less just said he's a fantastic player, very, very young, no fear, just keeps on going. A pleasure to see him on the field. It brings a smile to my face. And that's true. For me, I believe Martinelli, we've got to make, he's young. Listen, he's going to have bad games, he's going to have tough periods, because at some point he's going to play regular football and he's almost an unknown in the Prem. Teams and defenders don't know what to expect from him. But soon, by the time he's 2021, he's going to be a marked man in the same way Salah, Firmino, Mane, Vardy, Sergio Aguero, just about any top-class attacking sort of player is a marked man. They find a way to get around it, but they're a marked man. Pepe, to a degree, he's seen that you get no space in the Prem. Martinelli's seen that, but when you're a marked man, it's going to be worse. But for me, we've got to look to make him that Alexis Sanchez. You know, when Alexis was false 9 at this club, I believe long-term that's Martinelli's thing, man. A striker of some sorts. I mean, Martinelli's an incredible player. Like I said, let's not expect fireworks from him. Let's not dream, and I'm doing it myself. I'm dreaming of the player he can be tomorrow and not remembering he's still developing and stuff. But it's hard not to get carried away. First full Premier League start, scored a goal, got a decent amount of goals and assists this season for a young man who's just come from South America, showing more experienced players, and I love it. To be fair, maybe because I know Brazilian national papers and whatnot were ranting and raving about him, but speaking for myself, I didn't know too much about him when he was linked with Arsenal and came to Arsenal, beyond the clips we all saw. So maybe a lack of expectation and things like that kind of benefited him. But on the flip side, that could go against him. Arsenal, what sick Brazilian players have we had? What good players have we had? Genuinely, what players have we really been excited about, people? And Martinelli's one of them. So, but the flip side, all of that's going to come into play. But I've got a lot of time for him, man. Ljungberg's also, the wind's coming to mash up my thing, people. But Ljungberg's also had some other things to say, and he said, apologies, people, I've got to hold it on my leg. At least I've been able to feel or sense the pressure the players have been under. You can always say, well, they're professional footballers, they should deal with it, but it's been a tough period for them, and you felt it and seen in some games. Today, in the last 30 minutes, that lifted a bit, and we started to play some good football and slice them open. Like I said, we've got a lot of things to work on, but it felt nice to win. When he was further pressed on the difficulty to find time to improve between these games, specifically the 3 games we've got this week, we've played 2 of them now. We're going to play our second on Thursday, sorry. But he said, it would be nice to have a few days so that I can actually practice with them. Before the game is almost like a walkthrough, slowly what we need to do. And maybe that's why we start a bit slowly all the time, because you can't really have the tempo in training. But it's a lot of video and trying to show the sequences that we can do better, because we can't really do that on the field. That's not ideal, but that's December and the situation I'm in with these players. When further press people, and if one game, specifically the win against West Ham, can turn it around, he said, turn our season around, he said, of course you always have hope, but I try not to get carried away, because I still feel that there are things we need to work on, and we're not near where I want us to be. But of course I hope that the happiness the players could feel, and the spirit, and hopefully the belief amongst them, they could pass the ball with a higher tempo. Apologies where I flipped the page, people. Pass the ball with a higher tempo, and they could do 1 and 2 touches, and they could do things a lot quicker, and that will have a positive effect on them. He was also finally pressed people on if he's had contact in relation to his own future with people above him, and he more or less said him and Edu are in contact on a daily basis, and to take games a game-by-game situation. Ljungberg, for me, once you get a taste of senior management, he will end up departing Arsenal if he potentially, which is the case, at one point he will depart, I'm saying, when the opportunity presents itself, because I don't think he's going to get the managerial role on a consistent basis. I can't rule it out, but I just don't think he's going to get that. But him, Mertesacker, I want to retain them within the club personally, especially Mertesacker. So it's good for Ljungberg. For me, yeah, listen, if we're honest, we was terrible against West Ham. We was good for 30 minutes, specifically that 10-minute passage where we scored them 3 goals, courtesy of the attackers, Martinelli, Pepe, and Aubameyang. Ozil, Torreira involved as well. Shout to Kolasinac off the bench. We was terrible, people. But what I would like to say from these players, and again, transitional play was poor, stray passes were poor, defensively we was poor, but listen, you have to pull yourselves out of it. What I saw in the first half was feeling sorry for ourselves, resigned to defeat, no bravery and not trying things. I get why we're low on confidence. I get why you wouldn't want to try things. It's fully understandable. You're human, you're playing poor, there's scrutiny, and you know with Arsenal Football Club and social media and traditional platforms, everything is going to be magnified times 10. I get why people will be scared, but football is not like that, especially in the Prem. If you hide, you will be eaten alive. When you're pushed into a corner, you have 2 choices. Do you fight back, or do you curl in a ball? We have curled in a ball almost all season, but that half an hour we fought back. You could see a team playing with clarity. For me, and it's easy for me to say again, but if I'm one of these players and we're poor anyways, and the scrutiny is going to be deep anyways, and we're going to make these mistakes anyways, the same question marks and the same people are going to say the same things, but by that same logic, what can people say? If you're Pepe and people say, oh, you're overrated, they said that last week, they can say it again, is it really going to hurt? Luis and all these players who I don't necessarily believe in and make these mistakes, if you make these mistakes again, while you should learn from it, what are people going to say? We cannot keep playing scared to make mistakes, scared to try new things. We need to play with bravery. We need to play with a swagger. We're not going to be able to, we need to improve, but we're not going to be able to defend this season, or at least until January for reinforcements, and Ljungberg can turn it around in a coaching thing. So at least we should have more efforts and play with a swagger, play with the ball forward. Look, remember, enjoy your football. I saw for 10 minutes, half an hour, I saw people enjoying their football. I saw Pepe, Aubameyang and Ozil, everybody wanted it, movement off the ball and whatnot. And that's only going to come if we keep playing with freedom in the mind and play with clarity mentally. It's going to be tough because of how we're playing. I don't want us to get too excited, but you can see the mental release that these players got. You could see with the extended celebrations with the fans. You could see with the relief. I get it. I sympathise for Arsenal. We've been poor this season, but the only way these players are going to just get back to winning football games is if they remember why they started playing football in the first place. If they remember what gives them joy. If they remember that the worst that they can happen, obviously people, I can sit here and blast the team for the mistakes as I do, but the worst that can happen literally is you make mistakes. I'm a very harsh and analytical football man, people, but I'm also got that Arsene Wenger in me, and the worst that can happen is you lose. Football is deep, but football is not that deep, and until these players adopt that mindset going into games, we can forget about it. Like, look at Manchester City. Obviously, I would like to win. How Man City are playing this season, how we're playing, but following beating West Ham, I'd love to win. But realistically, it's damage limitation. What I'm expecting from City and expecting Arsenal can't be in the same situation or same sentence, a respectable defeat. If we lose 1-2-0 or whatever, the performance is there. And what I want to see is not just these players, but Pepe, Martinelli, who I believe should start, Aubameyang, Ozil if he starts, even Xhaka in the second half, Torreira, believe in yourselves, play with that same swagger that you did in that half an hour, 10-minute passage where we scored from the start, people. Because if people, listen, expectations of Arsenal is on the floor. It can't, I'm sure, again, I don't want us to make mistakes, I don't want us to lose, but it can't get it can get worse, but in terms of people's opinions of some of these players, it can't get any worse. So these players might as well shut that noise out, get back to basics, get back to enjoying football and take risks. Because we can't keep playing resigned to defeat. Take risks. Again, I'm not educated risk because we are losing the ball in dangerous areas and our transitional play is poor, and obviously we're poor defensively, but we need to get back to playing with mental freedom, with confidence, relishing the ball. In the first half, nobody wanted the ball, nobody wanted possession. Second half of that passage, like I said, everybody wanted it. Movement was off the ball, playing with a zip, playing with confidence, and you're only going to do that if you believe in yourself. Football is a mental game. It doesn't matter how. Listen, I'm sure many of you lot saw growing up. You've seen players, I've seen it myself, players that are technically amazing, that are not professional footballers because they curl into balls and they play in their shells. Equally, I see it at grassroots and I see it in the professional game. There's players with no ability but they're professional footballers because of the mentality, people. That's what it boils down to, how you approach games. You can only put in your best performance if you've got clarity. I get it. Myself included, fans, platforms, there's always going to be comments about Arsenal, but the players have to shut these things out. Take confidence if you can from that passage in the West Ham game and go again. That's all they can do, people, literally. I've got nothing more to do, and if you hit my camera, people, man, I've got nothing more to say, people. I need to go grab some lunch. So on that note, yeah, man, I'm out. So yeah, we've spoken about Marcelino and Paulo Sousa. We've spoken about Martinelli False 9. I'll probably do another video on that. Ljungberg's had something to say in relation to his post-match comments. He actually spoke about Pepe as well and said he hoped he slept last night. He slept well. It's good for Pepe, man, because he's had a lot of pressure. He's looked a shadow. He's shown good patches, but he's looked low on confidence. You know what the goal and the assist meant for him, especially because of how he turned the game around. And you see him on FaceTime with his brother as well. So it's good for him. Hopefully this could, I don't want to get excited, but hopefully this can be how his Arsenal career finally kickstarts and we see some consistency of a greater, higher standard, because I don't think he's been terrible, people. He just hasn't been the difference maker because he's still developing. Hasn't been 6 months yet at Arsenal. Not that he needs 6 months, but what I mean by that is, I mean, you need a settling in period, and if many Arsenal legends were written off after 6 months, people, you wouldn't be talking about Henry, Bergkamp or Perez. Perez actually said his first year in Premier League football was a write-off by his own standards. So for me, I just would like to see Pepe take confidence. Martinelli, he's not lacking on confidence. He's got that positive confidence. Aubameyang playing through the middle, we've got balance. And I will also say, don't write off Lacazette, people. Of course, it's going to be a touchy one in regards to their long-term futures, but it's a squad game, people. Maitland-Niles came out of the cold yesterday. Good second half last week. Not the first choice right back, but believe when your chance comes that you've got the ability to take chances. I believe Lacazette and Aubameyang should start, for me, in an ideal world, week in, week out. But I'm screaming Pepe, Aubameyang and Martinelli because we need balance. I believe too, we should start our best players, but on the same logic, we don't need to force two forwards. Right now, we've got the good balance. Lacazette's time is coming. It's a squad game. There will be times Aubameyang's not at it. Lacazette will have to come in, or Martinelli and Pepe are at it. We'll have to go with it. I do think Arsenal fans are always quick to praise and write off players and whatnot. And it is going to be a difficult one in the summer, really, because if Eddie Nketiah shows that he can be a competent goal scorer and the uncertainties over the players, the two strikers' careers at Arsenal continue, potentially could one or if not both leave people in that. You keep Lacazette and then Eddie can come off the bench or compete, or you keep Aubameyang who's getting 20 league goals minimum with Eddie Nketiah, you sell Lacazette, potentially even bring in a Zaha or another winger. I must admit, people, I'm on signing another winger if they're better than what we have or levels, but I can't lie, I'm happy with the balance we've got with our young players on the flanks. I'm more personally invested with fixing the spine of our team, centre half, central midfield, potentially even two central midfields, going for a right back as well to compete or start ahead of Bellerin as well. But I've been here longer than I planned to be, and I'm going to keep it moving, people. As usual, your support means the world. I'm out.